Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Kushava podcast, a podcast where we redefine masculinity and go into the complexities of masculinity, particularly for men of African descent. They say third time's a charm. Well, we'll see. Well, I have my next guest with me, Denis Dube, also known and probably more famously known as Danny That Guy. My brother, welcome.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You are a podcaster, you are a radio presenter, media consultant, currently with ZFM, and a lot of other things, including being the co-host of Two Broke Twimbos. Do you remember having me on your podcast a few years ago?
That's how we met, right?
That's how we met.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was through Dr. Nyarai.
Yeah.
And obviously, may she rest in peace. Very influential in my life and did a lot of work in terms of mental health. In fact, Kushava probably would not be as it is if it wasn't for her influence in my life. So I'm actually going to dedicate this podcast, this particular episode, to her and bring us together. And I'm glad that we're together.
I think that's a brilliant idea, man. Yeah, that was very sad news for us to have lost her.
Actually, yeah.
We did a weekly episode that was called Mental Wellness Mondays, and it didn't get as much views or whatever as the main podcast we did.
Right.
But I felt like it was so important, so impactful. There's literally people who said, like, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for that. And that's all to Dr. Nyarai and the work that she did.
Yeah, absolutely. Really grateful that she...
You made me sad, man, right at the beginning of the podcast.
But you know, the good thing about sadness is it can transfer into other things. So let's see where that goes. Tell me, very important question. What's your better language? French, Russian, Shona?
Shona. Shona.
So the French not so much?
I did in school. I got an A in school.
You got an A?
But I can't. It's not conversational.
Yeah, not conversational. Okay. Well, I think that's a good place to start in terms of just give us a broad brushstroke about your upbringing and your kind of growing up and maybe some of the key highlights in your life that made the man you are today.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess you basically started at what is probably one of the most impactful things is that I grew up mixed cultures, mixed race. My dad is from here. My mom's from the fairer side of the world. But I grew up here.
Right.
So the majority, I guess, of my upbringing was surrounded by African culture. But I still had a white mom from European culture.
Right.
So I guess growing up, there was that mix of both cultures. And it's weird because there's no one, and I hope this is a common thread throughout our entire discussion, is I don't believe there is one answer to everyone. Everyone's life is so unique to them. So I think there's no one way of defining how will it turn out if people of two cultures mix.
Right.
So for me specifically, I think I can say that I found it difficult to 100% assimilate the culture. If anything, I'm probably far closer to African Zimbabwean culture because that's where I grew up. That was my friends, the family that I knew, and so on. But there always was a part of me that felt like I don't think they fully accept me, whether true or not. I always felt that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I never really had access to any other culture, so it wasn't something that was sad. I didn't feel sad or depressed about it. I just kind of always felt a little bit of an outsider from everyone.
Yeah.
But thanks for talking to me as well, guys. Thank you so much.
You included me.
I appreciate it, even though I know.
Yeah.
And they probably never thought that or felt that, but that's how I perceived it. Yeah.
That's interesting. So there's an internal dialogue going on, even though it could not be true.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I've realized in my adulthood, which I think I've only actually entered the last 3 years, is the importance of knowing that not everything that you think is true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then that can convert into a belief system, which you then live by, and then it kind of informs your whole perspective.
Yeah.
Right. So even to this day, do you still believe that, or?
I think in also my recent adulthood, I've started to notice and think more deliberately about these things. Man, I wish I could sound really intelligent by remembering all the philosophers that said all these things.
Yeah.
But there's this concept of the ability to recognize your thoughts, right? That sense of self and the ability to not just think, but actually analyze and recognize your thoughts. It's just escaped me, the philosopher that
I get you.
Yeah, so the ability to have a thought and then think of it. And I think in my adulthood, I've tried to deliberately do that a little bit more. So that same sort of thinking of I don't really fit in. I've also experienced that maybe because of that upbringing. I don't know.
I see.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't.
yeah.
I haven't gone to therapy to really unpack this.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think I've also seen it in my adulthood. So if it is, I had for example, I had friends who were of better means than me.
Right.
They probably never thought this at all. But I was probably aware of the fact that maybe I'm showing that I don't come from the same background,
right.
or it could be people who, whatever it is, maybe people that I looked up to for whatever reason.
Right.
I had friends that were older than me, for example. So I felt like, they've got this confidence about them.
Yes.
I think they can see that I'm also struggling to. So probably until my mid-20s, I would say I was constantly trying to, I don't know if the right word is validate, or constantly trying to prove that I know you guys think that I'm this, but let me show you that I'm more than that. And people probably didn't even think that at all.
Yeah, okay, I see. Right, interesting. And then I think maybe the more discerning people who knew you could see that effort and maybe have some empathy for you.
Maybe. Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Yeah. I mean, you're reminding me of, I was fortunate enough to have lived overseas for quite a number of years. So I was only 9 when I came back to Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
My first time living like in Zimbabwe, 9 years old, and assimilating into a culture which I was familiar, but not really kind of sure. So I understand the kind of back and forth between what you know and your current experience and how you do have to kind of adjust.
Yeah.
But I think living overseas has also allowed me to be more of a chameleon. So I'm literally at home anywhere.
100%. That's also how I feel.
Yeah.
Maybe not because of living overseas, but because of the dual culture.
Right.
I do feel that maybe it's code switching to a certain extent, but I do feel like, in more, and I want to use words that don't imply one is better than the other, because I don't believe so.
Yeah.
But in more sophisticated sort of setups, I feel like I could fit in there, and in more grassroots, more grassroots, I
it's
feel
not a
like
problem.
I can fit there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which is, I think that's a good thing, right?
I think it's a superpower. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
So tell me about your mom's side, your matriarchal side. Which country exactly is she from?
Sure. So back then it was the Soviet Republic, now Russia, which has also splintered into several other countries.
Ever visited?
I have.
Right.
I have. Yeah. So my dad went there to study, and he lived and worked there for a while, and that's where they met, got married, and had me. And then when I was still young, they moved here. So I was just under 3 years old when we moved here.
Okay.
So my earliest memory is of Zimbabwe.
Amazing.
I look at photos and I see myself in the snow, and it was like, what? But yeah, my earliest memory is of Zimbabwe. I don't remember anything from that side. I did visit in my young adulthood with my mom. It feels like I'm just going to a foreign country.
Wow.
I was like, that's your aunt, that's your cousin. I'm like,
okay.
Cool.
I mean, they may have been paid actors.
It was, I remember I was 17, 18. I was 18. The last time, I haven't been in a long time.
Yeah.
And so obviously everyone was excited that, my mom was back and she's brought a kid from Zimbabwe. So a lot of our extended family were visiting. So what happened is every time I would open the door in the apartment that we were staying in, I would see like some beautiful woman. My mom was like, that's your cousin. I'm like, okay. Open the doors, like, that's your cousin. Take me back home.
That's too funny. Like, dang.
No, but it was cool. It was good to sort of connect and see that, okay, this is another part of my life that I have not been connected to at all, but it exists. So that was cool.
That's amazing.
But primarily, I was in Zim. I lived in Zim. I schooled in Zim. I grew up with my Zimbabwean friends and family. So
beautiful. Nice. That's good. We briefly touched on the theme of adulthood. Tell me about that transition for you. Like, was there a distinct kind of initiation into that phase of your life, or was it self-initiated like it was for myself? Like, there was a certain kind of thing or threshold that I had to go through to realize something's got to change here.
That's such a good question.
How did it happen for you?
So let me break it down into the different phases, right? So there's, I guess, biological adulthood, right, where you reach an age where you finished growing, right, biologically.
Right.
I don't know when exactly that would be, but I would say for me, I might equate that to the time that I transitioned from learning, schooling, whatever the case is, to working, contributing to society. It felt like that coincided with a biological transition into adulthood. But I think that's kind of an unimportant one. Yeah. I've always been a joker. Don't take life too seriously, you know what I mean? Tread lightly on the earth. And I still believe in that as a philosophy, by the way. I think tread lightly in the sense that if you take what you need to take seriously, yeah, but in general, things aren't as important as it may seem in the moment. I think that you get through life a lot better than people who are so impacted by everything.
Right.
Again, there's multiple ways of doing things. But for me, I've always thought about treading lightly. So I think I was very much unserious as a youth, in my youth. Yeah, it doesn't really matter, do whatever.
No consequences.
Ain't that deep.
Yeah, okay.
Study whatever. The work is just to get a bit of money, man, so that I can hang out. That's what the most important thing.
Yeah.
So I think there was a period somewhere in my mid-20s where I think there was that mental transition that, wait, hang on, some things do matter. Like there's stuff that's important. Family is important. Having an impact on other people is important. Like this stuff is it's not just light, joke about, don't worry about it. And I think around about then I started, let's say late 20s. Someone's gonna fact check me like, no, then late 20s I stopped caring as much about wanting to go out or wanting to appear a certain way or talk to the girls or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, somewhere in my mid to late 20s, there was that transition that, hey, there's some stuff that's important. I want to start putting more effort and impact in that. My faith is important. What I believe in, and so.
And with that, value systems, I'm assuming as well.
Yes, the value systems that come with it, the things that, is this a good or bad thing? Whereas previously, it doesn't matter, it's a thing. But now, is this a good thing? Does it impact myself and the world around me in a good way or a bad way? And the strange thing about when that moment hits you, you start noticing people that it hasn't hit yet, right? And I say yet because I think everyone has their own journey. Some people hit it early and they were probably looking at me like, Dan, what are you doing, man? Let's get serious with this life thing. So there were, I guess, friends or people that I hung out with a lot that, like, I can see that, and I don't want to judge because we all have our different lives, but I can see that the things that are important to me aren't really important to you, and the things that you want to prioritize, there were some friends that I felt that, I'd see them calling me on a Friday evening. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, like, for what?
Come on. And I don't have anything against, I still love and appreciate you as a person, but
of course,
we have different belief systems or value systems now. So I could see that happening. And what I also want to say, and this is the same thread that I also want to say, nothing is ever 100% or 0%. So it's not like I was 0% important things and 100%, messing around.
Yeah, of course.
And even post this awakening, if you will, it's not like I was now 100% a serious person.
Of course.
Obviously, there's like
back and it's I consider it a spectrum.
Exactly.
Like it's just like, ooh, and it's dependent on context.
Yes.
It's dependent on your audience. It's dependent on how you feel that day. It's dependent on hormones. It's just so many other factors, seen and unseen, that determine how you show up.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how sort of, I know this is, I'm the guest here, but just I'm curious, from yours, sort of thinking about the same thing.
Right.
When you had that transition to adulthood that we've hinted,
right.
Did you have like a hard cutoff for people who you felt weren't in that new space, or was it more of a,
it was,
hey man, we're not going to hang out as much? Or
well, it's funny enough, that actually started happening in high school.
Yeah.
So as Anna boys, we joke and clown around.
Yeah.
There was a time in high school when I realized, I was like, I'm not getting a lot out of my friendship circle. And maybe I'm talking about my broader friendship circle, because we would just be doing the same things every weekend. It was fun, don't get me wrong, I had a good time. And then those periods I was just like, okay. And then I started hanging out with a lot of my female friends, and I'd be getting a very different attention, or the conversations would shift. And I was now starting to be like, I think I'm getting more out of here.
The light-skinned
So-
brother wants to hang out with the female
with
friends.
the females,
Uh-huh.
oh, you LL brother with your cherry lips, and
It's like, nah, I want to hang out with the girls.
You
I get
know?
a lot more from the air. Get out of here, man. No, but I get it.
So that started happening, and I realized I was like, because also for me, I felt that I was expanding. I was like, there's more to it than this. This can't all be it.
Yeah.
And I've always been curious by nature. I'm an inquisitor. You know what I mean? In anything that I do, be it spirituality, be it learning, education. What it means to be a man.
Female friends,
The
all of
female
that.
friends.
Yeah.
So when I started happening, I realized that. So in high school, my friendship circle actually started getting smaller back then. And then throughout university as I growing up, and then I had a core set of friends when I was quote unquote a young adult. And then that got smaller again as I transitioned to what we're talking about, that threshold of adulthood.
Yeah.
Because then I was very sure of who I was. And I'd gone through, I would call them initiations that allowed me to be a lot firmer in my identity. And I said, here are my clear boundaries.
Yeah.
If you're with it, cool. If not, I can't continue this journey with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was real, man. Yeah.
So like there's, again, like I said, I'm a joker. I get jokes, man.
Right.
Everyone jokes around. We
Yeah,
joke
yeah,
around.
yeah.
Sometimes you may cross the line a little bit.
Yeah,
Sure.
for sure,
We,
for sure.
as long as we understand your heart's in the right place, it's fine. At least to me.
Right.
But there were some people that, like, I started getting a little uncomfortable with, man. Like, dude,
it's personal.
like,
bro, really?
That's demeaning.
Yeah,
Or that's like,
yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to ruin the vibe or anything, but
Yeah.
come on, bro.
And
Like,
it's like all the time. And it's like, I likened it to, we didn't have social media back in the day.
Yeah.
Right?
Thankfully.
But those bullies that just are in front of a screen, just poking.
Yeah.
And it's like, back then, it's like, I didn't get anything else from you but that.
Yes.
Or but the drinking. I was like, but there's more to life than
Yeah.
this. So I was already querying those types of things then. And I think it just continued on. And then now when I look at my friends, and I had this with Walter's interview, it's about quality, man.
Yeah.
I'm content with my very, very, very small group. But hey, if there's an issue or if there's anything, if I need to be criticized or I know that person's got my back. You know what I mean? And vice versa.
That's a great way to look at friendships.
Yeah.
But devil's advocate here. Do you feel that it might be almost a transactional or almost mathematical way of looking at friendship? That, okay, let's balance the books here, pros versus cons. Okay, you qualify, you don't qualify.
No, because I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. So,
Yeah.
so I'm keeping it very, very basic, but I see what you're saying is that it can be a transactional, but because there's a history, and when I say history, it doesn't necessarily mean in terms of time.
Yeah.
Because I have very, very close friends that I've only known for the last few years. But because there's something that has drawn us together or an experience, I know that, okay, we're aligned here.
Yeah.
I think it's more about alignment. Yeah. We have a similar understanding of the world, and not necessarily agreeing on everything. That's not even the point. In fact, some of my best friends, we have the biggest disagreements, which I think is healthy.
Healthy, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. But we can parlay and not try to convince each other about our opinion. Right.
Which, by the way, this transition from what I consider, I do think that's healthy. Like with friends, you should be like challenge each other
Absolutely,
and so on.
100%.
That is not the mindset to take into a marriage. I'll tell you that. Tell you that.
Tell me about it, because it's recent, right?
Relatively recent, yeah.
Relatively,
We're celebrating our 4th anniversary this year.
Beautiful, lovely.
So I guess it's also something that I didn't notice, because before I got married to my wife, we were friends, we were, and now I don't say we're in the sense that we're not anymore. I just mean it's graduated to an even more richer experience, husband and wife. But when we were dating in a relationship, that was my friend, I would, if something came up, I would want to bring it up and discuss, right? And what do you think? What do I think? And we had such rich conversations that I knew that, okay, I want to be married to this person because I see rich conversations in our life, among many other things, of course. And after marriage, rich conversations continued, but one element of what I considered a friendship was just that let's challenge each other.
Yes.
And she was like, but why do you always do that?
Oh, interesting.
I'm like,
okay.
what do you mean? It's like, why do you always feel the need that it has to be a debate or an argument?
Oh, wow.
And I realized that, I see. Okay. It took me a long time to realize this. But I'm bringing that mindset of challenge debate, which is good for friendships, I guess, or some friendships, not all friendships. And in a marriage, not to say that there shouldn't be challenge or whatever, but the mindset of challenge everything, debate everything. I also learned that was something that was a my upbringing thing as well.
Interesting. Okay, from your household.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were 3 boys.
Yeah.
And my dad, I appreciate this, but one of my dad's sort of, I guess, ethos or whatever it was about raising us was like it's good to challenge. Like this happened, challenge it. You did this, let's critique it. It never felt critical.
Right.
It felt, hey, let's constantly try to be better.
Sounds like you're building a muscle, thicker skin, maybe, like that type of.
It didn't feel like an attack or to make it thicker skin, but it felt more like, I'll give you an example. All right. So what would happen is on a regular basis, we would sit down and my dad would say, okay, so your brother did this week, something. It could be an achievement. It could be they had a part at our religious meetings there, or it could be whatever it was that you did something. We're like, hey, let's sit down. Let's take a look at what are some of the good things that happen and what are some of the things that can be improved upon, right? And we spent very little time on the good things because we're like, I know you guys are good at what you do. You're going to get so much praise from everyone else, but no one is going to come and critique you. Ooh. So like be the ones to critique each other.
I like that. I like that.
He never articulated it that way, but now when I look back at what we're doing, that's what
he was doing. Yeah.
And I think to a certain extent that's healthy. Of course, if it's done in a good balance with praise and so on.
Right.
But that mindset of critiquing brothers and it's cool what you did. Other people will say you were great, but I'm here to tell you what you can improve on. No, you can't do that with your wife. Man. Like, come on, man. You gotta be her biggest supporter, So I guess I'm unlearning
that
and relearning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in some instances, I agree. It is as important as your partner. Like my wife's my best friend as well, right? So there are times like, hey.
Sponsored by marriage.
Right? but at the same time, you learn when to keep quiet.
Yeah. And I guess seeing as this is a masculinity podcast, I guess I always hesitate to go down this route.
Right.
But it is one of the differences that sometimes exists between men and women. Again, I don't think everything is 100% this or 0% that. But I think in general, I would say women thrive when there's support and praise.
Right.
And men also thrive with that.
Right.
But I think you've mentioned it in this episode and you mentioned in the Walter episode that there needs to be something like, hey, whoa.
Yeah.
You're going a bit far there, man.
Right.
And I think
absolutely.
when you have that, it's very beneficial as a man. It's probably beneficial as a woman as well. I'm not a woman. I can't say for sure. But I think part of our biological differences there is women thrive more with support and praise, and men thrive with, yes, support and praise is important, but
there needs to be some tension, like what I call positive tension.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that positive tension.
It's like the analogy that I use is like that seed that's under in that soil, that dark soil. It still needs to crack through its shell. Yes. It still needs to crack through that earth to then finally realize. So there is a tension, there's a struggle that's required.
Yeah.
I do believe that's for everybody. Hi, good people. Thank you so much for taking time out to engage in this very important and necessary conversation regarding redefining masculinity, particularly of men of African descent. Now, to take it a little bit further, I want to offer you a 5-week personal growth program where you will have me as your personal growth mentor. We will go through the proven process of the ACI process, which stands for Acknowledge, Confront, and Integrate, the things in your life that have been hindering you from your full potential. Now, keep in mind that this is a limited number of people available. I'm only taking 12 clients in the next 6 months. That is because we actually do a deep dive into your life, and it is not for the faint-hearted. There is some bravery that is required for this one. Sign-ups will be taking place in November through to December for us to start early in the new year in 2026. The cost of this program, $380 with a payment plan certainly available. For those who want to sign up for this, please click on the Calendly link below to have a free 15-minute discovery call, and we can see if this program is meant for you. For those of you who want free resources, we have our Kushava WhatsApp group. The link is also below. Please note that this group is for men only. We do meet on a regular basis online on the WhatsApp, but we also do meet on a regular basis physically with meetings and workshops. If you're in Harare, these resources are available to you. Also, we'll be expanding to have physical workspaces and sessions within the Johannesburg area in the near future. Please don't forget to follow us on social media. You can catch us on Ubuntu Lab Africa. Our website is www.ubuntulab.africa, and you can email tabani@ubuntulab.africa for any other information. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the podcast. So I want to circle back to your dad. Because in a lot of men's lives, I mean, fathers play prominent figures, particularly in the primary shaping of the definition of masculinity.
Yeah.
Can you share with us your relationship with your dad? What is it like, or what was it like, and how has it influenced you?
Okay. African dads, eh?
That
So-
should be a whole podcast, by the way.
To start,
Yeah.
my dad, I believe in adulthood, looking back, he did the best that he could.
Right.
There were some things that I feel like, oh man, you could have shown more emotion or intimacy, or I wish that you had allowed us to be freer with this or that. And those things can be true, but looking back at how he raised us, I think he did the best that he could with what he had. He was loving in his own way that wasn't as overt. He wasn't abusive, which is a very low bar to clear, but I'm thankful for that, because when I hear other stories, I'm like, I appreciate that at least you weren't that. To some extent, he could have been harsh. Feels like a harsh word, but let's say hard. Like to some extent, like he was a disciplinarian. And this is allowed, this is not allowed. But I believe it always came from a good place, and it wasn't enforced in an extreme way. That having been said, I can see how now that we're adults, we have, I think, a good relationship. I would hope he says the same.
Right.
But I can see the closeness doesn't exist the same as it does with my mom, for example.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, for example, like when I see him, is it a handshake or a hug vibe? What's the
kind of?
Yeah, it's just a good to see you. Good to see you. How things good? You good?
Yeah.
Whereas with my mom, it's like, oh, yeah, you should call more.
For sure,
which
for
is
sure.
like, which is nice,
Yeah.
I also recognize, I think, that there's some things that I want to bring. I'm an expecting father, by the way.
Actually, good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And there's some things that I want to bring that so I appreciate that he was consistent with boundaries. From his perspective is, in my home, I believe this is right, I believe this is wrong. I'm going to give you the reasons why I believe so. And so I think that consistency is that consistent boundaries is good for raising a young man.
Yeah.
Understanding that, yes, there's rules that exist, and there's a reason for them to exist, which is good. And then I think, as a separate conversation, the idea that at some point, when you know more, break those rules or go through them, see what's there. But for now, you don't know enough. Follow the rules. At least that's how I took it. But something I want to sort of not repeat with my child is the emotional distance. Which is, I'm your father, you're the child, this is how we do things.
Right.
I think there's room to be more available. Yeah, I'm not sure little friend can exist, right?
But
like
there is an element of nurture within masculinity, which I think the common narrative is that there isn't. That's a feminine trait. Ten Diamond, who we both know, previous host on this podcast, wrote this beautiful article on Substack where he talks about the warrior in the garden. And encourage people to read it. And he talks about the need. A lot of us are just warriors. We just do. We're defined by our production and what we bring home and blah 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 blah. And there's no nurturing element at all. But he argues that when the warrior sits in the garden, the role is not to watch the garden, it's to tend the garden and let things grow. Right. So there's a nurturing aspect to that element, right? Which we've forgotten about it. Right? It's like sometimes we got to just put the shield down and sit. And when we're not like we're waiting for war, because we have the capability of war if it's needed, but we're not literally on high alert the whole time, just like, okay, waiting for a fight.
Yes.
Which is I think where the toxic masculinity comes in, is because we've been programmed to be like, okay, we gotta go, we gotta do this.
Yes.
It's like, whoa, easy. If and when the war comes, we're ready.
We're ready.
We will defend our family without a doubt. But there's also this tending that needs to happen here. You understand? So that element again, it goes back to it's not an either or. So you talked about your dad, being strict or a certain way or creating these boundaries, right? Absolutely, that's important. But it's very similar. I think that generation of African fathers, the emotional intelligence, I think I'll speak for myself. I've surpassed my dad.
I would like to believe the same about myself, but I think there's something to be said about the world you live in.
Right.
Because we don't live in a constant state of war or whatever, so we have room to be a bit softer. I think it's fair to say that my dad lived through the War of Independence in this country. He participated in it. He had to be a hard man to survive. And I say this just as a matter of, it's important to sort of understand as opposed to necessarily excuse.
Right.
Or
it's
whatever.
Context.
It gives context. Yeah. So I that's why I say, I think given his circumstances, the tools he had and the environment he was in, he did the best that he could.
Right.
And I think that's also the day you admit that, and I know that's not true for everyone.
Right.
But if it is true for you, the day you admit that, I think you've somewhat crossed over into adulthood.
Right.
Like, you know what? I was upset about this and this and this, but come to think of it, and again, I was recently reading about something called bean soup theory. Have you ever heard of it?
No, tell me.
It's an internet phenomenon.
Right.
The idea is, it comes from someone some years ago who posted a recipe for bean soup.
Right.
And a lot of the comments were, what if you don't like beans? What can you do? And everyone's like, well, it's okay, then that's not for you. It's okay. This is for people who want bean soup. It's a silly idea, but it sort of gives the context or the idea that there's going to be so many people that listen to this podcast with different backgrounds. There's going to be someone who has an abusive father, for example, which sadly that's a thing, right? The same.
It won't cut it.
Yes.
I did the best. It's not going to cut it.
There's going to be someone else who grew up with a very sensitive and emotional father.
Right.
Again, this is a different.
100%.
So I think it's just. I hate giving too many disclaimers, but
no. I think it's important in this day and age.
I've been on the internet too long.
People will take that soundbite and say they stand on either of the extremes, and it's like, no, actually, it's not the case. Right.
Speaking of which, you touched on the toxic masculinity. Right. I have wondered because you're talking about masculinity, right? And I think it's important conversations to have. But how do you make sure that you're not leaning too heavily into the manosphere? Or,
right. I think one of the things that Kushava does is that when we talk about the complexities of masculinity, we bring it all in, right? So it's not from one particular perspective. Let me rephrase that. The perspective is particularly for men of African descent.
Yeah.
But because the masculinity that we're presented with is almost like already defined for us, and it's like in this box. And African men are so broad in terms of our expressiveness and our diversity and our experiences and our traumas. We can't fit into that box that you're telling us to be a man is this, right? So I'm looking to just completely redefine that. So within that little box, there's some good and there's some not so good, right? And I think that's where toxic masculinity fits in. To try to fit into that box creates a lot of behaviors that are destructive, which is what I've experienced, right? Whether it's the drinking, the abuse, the suicide, all of those things start happening because we're trying so hard to fit into this. And what we're trying to do with Kushava here is to open up that, I can say, in fact, allow that box to be fertilized in a larger field so that a healthy soil can be composted. And I think that's the role of Kushava, is to say, we're composting here. I'm not going to give you the position to say, this is what masculinity is.
Yeah.
But I'll invite you to say, hey, Danny, what do you think of this? Okay, plant that idea next to mine, next to Ten's, next to Walter's, next to whoever's. And then
they're
all
valid.
See, because we've got another generation coming that we'll need something better than maybe what we got.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think like when I think of young men, right? I hate some of the ideas that come out in this space of toxic masculinity, right? There's certain names in the manosphere that have built followings because they say things. And I think it's a mistake to just immediately dismiss them, right? Because there's a reason why they're so attractive. There's something there.
There's an appeal. Absolutely.
There's something there, but it's just done in such a destructive and hurtful way.
Yes.
For example, I recently watched that Netflix documentary.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And, you know, there's some young guys there who are explaining what it is that attracts them. There's like, listen, just this idea, I think they call it, you know, radical responsibility.
Right.
That I'm the one who's going to save my life. I need to get serious. I need
do
to
something about
do something, which I think there's something that you can build that on, which is, yeah, you're responsible for your life. Take some steps and so on. Maybe it now goes a little bit too far and becomes radical, and now it's at the cost of other people, and now it's
hurting people and beating them up on the street. It's just like, okay, you had me, and then you just
so
yeah.
So if we can find at the same time, you don't want to sanitize some of this destructive messaging, right?
Yeah.
You want, I want, and I guess I've been thinking a lot more about this when I think, I don't know yet if it's going to be a boy or a girl I'm raising, but if it's a boy, the world that you're coming into, there's all these influences, and some of what they say may sound so appealing because, because I mean, part of what they're saying is based in something.
Truth. Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. And so on that point, it's like my contribution to this conversation is I think that there is a lot of indigenous knowledge and wisdom that we've lost or misunderstood. Case in point, the initiation of young men, which a lot of African tribes used to do. When you take that initiation away, which was very intentional, get a boy at a certain age, go out into the bush with the just men, teach them how to be a man, they come back and they're like, okay, now you're a man, right? I'm saying, how can that be redefined for today's context? I'm not necessarily saying we got to go into the bush and, you know, chop off a little bit of your manhood and then voila. But what can we do that can assimilate that? And that can produce, so that it's a responsibility in that initiation, right? It's opposed to, because if the danger in that is that we outsource it to the gangs, we outsource it to these organizations, we outsource it to the Andrew Tates or whoever, to then say, okay, this is what it means to initiate, right? When I was in the States, I used to meet with some gang members in prisons and everything as part of some work I used to do. And they would tell me, as an initiation, you'd have to go out and rape a girl.
Oh, wow.
That's, you see, so when you don't have the structure, it falls apart, somebody else is going to come and say, okay, young man, you want to be a man? You're going to have to kill somebody, or you're going to have to do this, or you're going to have to, you know, so things like that. It can get really bad.
I'm worried, man. I don't think the world exists anymore that we can build those kind of structures. And I don't want to sound too defeatist, but let me paint what I mean.
Expand, please.
If I were to simplify things, right? We used to live in a very community-based structure.
Yeah.
Whether it's a village or whatever it is, right? The idea is 100 people live in this area. We kind of, even if you don't perfectly know everyone, you kind of know everyone who's in this space, and we have a somewhat common goal, and whether it's agriculture or hunting or whatever it was, right? And as those communities expanded, that gets a little bit more diluted. But even as recently as a few decades ago, you know, we still had somewhat of community-based living, whether it's based on families, you know, so the aunties and the uncles and the whatevers, as is very common in African and other households of color. Or it could be in this town or this neighborhood. I know my neighbors. I know there's the common playground or the park where everyone goes to play. I think in that world, we can have a legit conversation. How do we as a community, or we as a neighborhood, or we as a family help to raise these kids so that they don't get caught up in these destructive behaviors? Unfortunately, I think the world has become so individualistic that those communities don't exist anymore. Or where they do, they're either under attack or people are trying to get out of them, or the world has become, because of the internet and social media and whatever, we're looking for community in other places. The community is now we all like World of Warcraft.
Or this football team.
Yeah, so we're like all Arsenal fans. That's cool. It's a community that you've found, but it doesn't have the opportunity for that impact, that other community. And ultimately, as communal beings, we all want to be part of a community.
Belonging is a need, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be friends with Mutsa, man. He got too deep when he was in high school and he started hanging out with the girls.
Too light skinned.
So I'm going to find someone on Twitter. And now that community is broken.
And it's easier for me to access through my phone or...
And I know I'm oversimplifying it.
Yeah, of course.
I think to try and bring that fractured sort of... it's now everyone is an individual.
I hear that.
Try bring them back into a community where we can do this for everyone. I think that's going to be so difficult.
So I'm not disputing the difficulty of it. I agree with you there. Huey P. Newton, who was founder of the Black Panther parties in the States, has this phrase where he says, think globally, act locally, right? Which means, I get it, but globally the world is individual.
Yeah.
But locally, what can I do?
Yeah.
Kushava, simple, our first gathering had 19 people. Great. We've started a community, right? And I'm not really bothered about how the number is. The number is, it's more about the quality.
I hear you.
You get what I'm saying? So if everybody does that, if everybody has their little community, then that's, I think, how Aaron Manning, who's a philosopher in the States, calls it the minor gesture. It's not the big things that are going to change. It's not the Trumps that are going to, we're going to, it's the minor gestures that nobody sees. It's Danny giving that kid a little pep talk before a game.
Yeah.
That's going to shift. It might influence him later on and it have impact that you'll never see. Those are the things that I'm interested in. It's the mystery in those little gestures. You see?
Yeah, I like that. I think, actually, you know what? You have somewhat shifted my view a little bit. The goal is not to change the world. The goal is to change my immediate sphere of influence.
Yes, your soil, your surrounding soil.
Cool.
So, 2 more questions.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, is the state of the African and more specifically the Zimbabwean young man? And a follow-up question is, what role does media, and you can include AI and tech because, but you're, as a media consultant, you're in that space. What role does media have in that kind of maybe redefinition of that?
It's a good thing this wasn't the first question because the whole episode would have been this. Let me start with your first question. What is the state? Let me say Zimbabwe as a whole.
Sure.
I would imagine this applies to other African countries as well. You and I, thankfully, are in a place of privilege. Thankfully for us.
Yeah.
Being in media, I've done a bit of research on specific things, or I'll give you an example. I was doing a piece when I was trying to understand a little bit more about online gambling. And I just saw how in some communities, especially in the less affluent communities, just how much of a scourge gambling has become. And, we're a little insulated here because it's a bit fun to talk about, I'll put a bit of money on that game. Let's see how it goes. But in certain communities, it's like destroying families. The same is true of substance abuse. We did, when we were on radio, we have a lot of, whether it's the ministry or several NGOs that want to sort of bring information out about what's going on.
Right.
And I'm like, I know. I heard that there's some white moving around certain clubs, And they're like, oh, you sweet summer child. And then you see some of the statistics of just how bad it is in certain places, whether it's alcohol or, basically improvised meth in some places.
Yeah.
I think we're heading towards a terrible, terrible place, because these are young people, mostly young men.
It is,
who are in their maybe teenage years or getting into where are they going to be? What are they going to be doing in 5-10 years from now? If their entire youth was their money's gambled away, they're hooked on all these drugs and substances, and they feel hope. There's no hope.
Right.
They feel hopeless. Like what's life going to be in 5 or 10 years? It's a scary thing.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing. And this is more of a theory, so don't view it as, but your next question was about media and tech and how it is sort of plugging into the state young men are now. I worry about who our biggest online celebrities are. Now, don't get me wrong. Every country has controversial people and all of that, and I'm not even against that. Should exist.
Right.
But if the most impactful and the most important online people are also the most destructive and the most toxic and the most, what does that say about society?
And people looking up to them,
Yeah,
following them, all that
the people that you follow and the platforms that you follow, the entire goal of this platform is to tear people down, to be toxic, to laugh at people, to insult, to use the most insulting language. That exists everywhere, but these are our biggest platforms. There's very few positive role models.
Right,
They exist, but there's very few. You know, I always say in Zim, the influencers we have are musicians and politicians. Everything else is like, yay, whoa. Let's hope that's not an influencer, because the conversations and the spaces that they seem to be getting in. On the flip side, you know, I've seen a ton of really cool like skit comedians and stuff who do cool stuff, and you know, and they're. I know the goal is not to become a teacher on social media. That's never going to resonate with anyone. So, you know, we're over here to do a skit about how to be like, that's not right. But there are people that do stuff that's pretty cool. It's just like showing you what life is like in this community or in this space or that's cool. But then there's also a section of social media which I fear is the most popular, which is entirely built around toxicity and negativity. So those two things make me very fearful of the future of young men in this country. And some conversations I've had with some people, I'm like, do you really think that way? Or do you really believe that? And like, yeah, no, I think I do believe it could be talking points from the manosphere about, you know, there's a very common sentence that's used that your life as a man, you have no value. That's it. You have no value, period.
Right.
Women have value. They're born with value. As a man, you have to build value. Do you really genuinely believe that you have zero value? Like, yeah, just take a look at this and this and this, and like, hey man, that must be such a dark place.
Yeah.
So that combination of constantly being told you have no value, the everything you consume is about tearing down, destruction, and whatever, and now you add gambling, substance abuse. I am so worried.
And because you're going to take it out primarily on yourself and the people closest to you as well. Right.
And those are our future husbands and future fathers. Absolutely. And I'm very worried about where it's going to end.
There's a whole generation of that coming up. This drug it's actually a pandemic. And I'd liken it to the suicide pandemic in Zimbabwe, which is taboo, but we're breaking that because we're talking about these things, right? But we have to now create those spaces where, listen, I think things like that thrive in the darkness because they're not brought to light. And as Zimbabweans, as a culture, we kind of just like sweep things under the rug, and it's like, no. Actually,
we got to talk
our
about
responsibility is shedding the light on this so that we can bring it to, you know, and do something about it. So so there's a lot of work out there to be done. There are initiatives. One, for example, is I teach capoeira, which is Afro-Brazilian martial art. We have an initiative where
Eddie from Tekken.
Eddie from Tekken. There you go. Those who know, they know. But we have an initiative where I'm actually training about 5 or 6 young people, both men and women, from Mbare, and they go and teach, and we go into the townships and we teach capoeira in Mbare. In Brazil, it's in the favelas. That's their township, right? That's what's used to get people away from drugs, is capoeira. So we're trying to introduce that into Zimbabwe, you see. So the plan is to take them to Brazil so they get exposure as well. You know, so there's the cultural exchange. There's so much that can be done. But again, it's just 5 or 6 people. So it's not gonna change the whole world, but it's something. You know what I mean? So I'm keen and curious to spotlight initiatives like that. You know what I mean? So there are things that can be done, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, 100%. I've come across guys, there's guys who do dance.
Right.
Yeah. So they've got all kinds of like little initiatives, and there's people who are trying to help. Like if you do music, you've got an outlet, a creative expression. I saw someone who was trying to get like a graffiti movement. I don't know if it went well, but the idea was like, you've got stuff that you want to get out of you. Get it.
Yeah. And there's various mediums to do so. Right. So yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Perfect.
Denny, any last words to our viewers that you want to express? Anything at all? You're welcome to.
Yeah, I think we live in a world where we're in constant comparison. Just to bring it back full circle to how we started the discussion about having to compare ourselves to other people. And social media has made that exponentially a bigger problem than before. So now I'm comparing myself to someone better looking, someone with more money, someone with whatever, constantly. And that's not healthy. A small amount of motivation can be healthy. Like, oh, I want to be more like you, brother. Cool.
Yeah.
I really want this to be true for myself, because I know it's something that I still need to work on, but I think it should also be true for everyone else, which is, hey man, just put the phone down, go outside, just do something, whatever that little thing is, do something apart from social media, which is cool to do and engage yourself in. But yeah, so I guess the message I would want to say is, there's, even if it's not impactful, just do something, man. Just go do something, whatever. Just do a thing.
Yeah, I like that. Right. Put your body to work, move,
Yeah.
be outside, like touch nature,
It, by default, it just tears you away from the constant negativity that exists online.
We get way too much dopamine as soon as we pick up the phone in the morning. That's not normal. That hit of dopamine so early in the morning. It's supposed to, initially it's supposed to come with the sun rising and you birds chirping, and now it's just boom, dopamine levels up, and then you spike, and then you drop,
and nothing else
then
hits the same, and
cortisol levels, all that stuff.
Do something, do anything, just do something.
I like that. Yeah,
I think
good.
I think that's what I would want to say.
Nice. Denny, thank you so much, man. Appreciate your time and your presence. Best of luck in your career, and of course your new marriage and becoming a father.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it.
Looking forward to seeing, and I don't think this will be the last time we are speaking together in this space. So I appreciate you, and good luck and love to the family.
Can I plug something quickly?
100%.
I also have a podcast that I host with my co-host Phil Chart. So please check it out. It's called Two Broke Twimbos. That's actually where we met, Mutsa and myself. So yeah,
yes. Where can they find that?
So anywhere that you get podcasts, it's an audio podcast. Sometimes we have a bit of video that we share with like patrons and stuff, but it's primarily audio. When we work a little bit harder, then we'll afford some cameras.
I like it.
Two Broke Twimbos. Check it out.
Love it. Denny, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, brother.
Appreciate
All right. Ashe.